Oh, hello. Tonight, I would like to take you on a strange journey. Welcome as we discuss a man who was controversial, to say the least, tragic, brilliant, tortured, mired in controversy. Michael Jackson, the king of pop. That is tonight's subject of discussion. For a certain age group, that was born in the 80s and before. So you had to be, I would say you probably had to be born somewhere in the 80s or before that to really remember and understand and grasp the type of fame and success that Michael Jackson had. And, I think that was sort of like generations that came later, generations that were born in the 90s. I don't think like there was even the same level of perception regarding the type of, celebrity and fame. It's funny. I was just talking about this with my friend in the car. We were talking just about fame and how fame has changed with the internet. I'm basically going to sum up what we discussed in a nutshell, and it is this: it's the idea that in today's day and age, anybody can garner some sort of monicum of fame. Whether you're on TikTok and you got 90,000 followers, or YouTube or Instagram or whatever. You could be an influencer, you could be a this, you could be a that. And, what you could do is you can appeal to a particular niche of fandom, whether it's you being someone who's knowledgeable about a particular subject of interest, or maybe you do, there's a lot of people, great example. Let's go back to TikTok for a minute. There's a lot of people on TikTok who do one thing and they get attention for it. Attention is really the best word to use. It's not true fame. It's not the type of fame that you can monetize. It's not the type of fame that gives you a real sort of career. It's almost kind of like fake and plastic. And I say all of that to say that the type of fame that Michael Jackson had was a fame that very few have ever witnessed or experienced firsthand. I'm sure you talk about guys like Elvis, Paul McCartney, any of the Beatles, but mainly like Paul McCartney, just like a level of fame that's just so next level, inconceivable, because back in the 90s, before we had the internet and you could find out about any little thing, you were kind of limited to what was, broadcasted, on TV, on cable TV, on network TV. So for instance, if you were a sitcom dad, I think did we talk about this on the channel? I feel like we talked about this on the channel too. You could, reach, a level of fame that you could eat off of forever because, doing the convention circuit, because you were in everybody's household. You were in 50 million people's households, every week, for season after season of a show, that sort of thing. In the case of Michael Jackson, it's even grander than that. All of this again to say, I keep saying all of this to say that Michael Jackson was an incredibly, incredibly famous human being who dealt with levels of fame that none of us can comprehend. I also want to say this about Michael Jackson before we dive into the subject. Michael Jackson was there was something very wrong with Michael Jackson, quite clearly. Listen, this is not speaking ill of the dead. This is, contextualizing a public figure who was larger than life. There was something wrong with Michael Jackson. Obviously, he was robbed of his childhood. He had a really tough upbringing. He was alone in many different facets. He was a very lonely person, secluded person, because of that fame, because of dealing with all of what he dealt with, dealing with a ruthless father who was monstrous dad. um all of that would leave anybody in a really weird place. I also want to say that, you know I don't know what happened with Michael Jackson and the trials and the accusations made against Michael Jackson. I've looked over some of that stuff, and here's the bottom line. um Whatever Michael Jackson did was incredibly inappropriate and most likely criminal. And the truth of the matter was, there were so many people that were going after him that maybe didn't necessarily have something happen to them or have a case, that they made the ones that were hurt sort of, easy to doubt. What I'm really thinking about is that Leaving Neverland documentary, which, again, I'm not a Michael Jackson truther, but like, man, there was so much wrong with that documentary. And there's so many I mean, I could do a whole episode just about that documentary alone, and how wrong that documentary was. But all of that to say, I keep saying it, but all of this to say that whatever Michael Jackson was, he was a very inappropriate person who did incredibly inappropriate things with children, and that were most likely criminal, and he should have gone to jail for the things that he was doing. And they just couldn't nail him down. They couldn't nail him down. The cases that went to court were perhaps not the right cases that needed to go to court. Who knows? Who friggin' knows? With all of that said, man, I was shocked when Michael Jackson died. I think everybody was shocked. It was a watershed moment. It was like I mean, it was something that had lasting ripple effects in the music world, in the in pop history and pop culture and pop whatever. The king of pop has died. It's something. He's the type of guy, he's a type of icon who you expect to live forever. He's not the type of person, he's not the person that you think is going to perish. He just seems beyond that. And yet, on June 25th, 2009, Michael Jackson passed away in a really sad kind of way. And I guess the world understood the depths of the addictions that he suffered from. He suffered from serious addiction. And, the problem, there's a lot of different problems with addiction, but all of them can be kind of leveraged against money. And what I mean by that is, money has a way of allowing addiction, of enabling addiction. If you have a lot of money, a lot of handlers, and a lot of people that are handling your life, it's quite possible that you can, go through life, knee deep in an addiction without consequences, because you have, endless friggin' money, endless money that sort of, puts a Band-Aid on it. It was the same thing with those accusations. Michael Jackson made a fatal mistake in, if he was truly innocent, if he was innocent, mind you, again, I have not saying that he was innocent. I'm not saying that he wasn't innocent. I'm saying that I've looked into all of that stuff, and just, I don't know, there's a lot there. There's a lot there to look over. He was basically given a choice one day where it was like, if you pay $20 million, you can make this all go away, or you could go to trial and spend 5 times the amount of money and potentially be convicted and potentially, drag yourself through, it's not good for business, this, that, and the other, all of which to say, hey, let me pay $20 million to hush this person up. And in doing so, that brought a lot more out of the woodwork, a lot more. And of course, the two biggest ones were the one in 1993 and the one in 2005, both of which he managed to beat. But he had money. He had money that allowed him to escape those consequences as well as the consequences of addiction until it didn't. And that's the part of the problem. When you have that much money, you can do things that other people can't do. So if you want to have an anesthesiologist put you to sleep every night, you can do that. When you're rich, you can do that. And you have to consider too, Michael Jackson, he had all those surgeries, man. His body was probably dependent or hooked or had a what's the word I'm thinking of? Had a not a hung what is the word I'm trying to, it's on the tip of my tongue. His body had a preference probably for such heavy drugs, after spending so much time on them from all of his surgeries and who knows what else. It's the same thing. It's funny. His bitter rival, I shouldn't say bitter. It was like a loving rivalry. It was an antagonistic rivalry, but it was also a loving rivalry. He had such huge rivalry with Prince, which is another topic that I would love to discuss. Because here's the thing, all of that said about Michael Jackson, I am fascinated by Michael Jackson. I'm fascinated by his genius. I'm fascinated by his musical process. I'm fascinated by the life he led. I'm fascinated by his career. It's just something we've never really discussed on the channel that much. My friend Jeremy and I, we talk about Michael Jackson a lot. Just blown away by, who and what he kind of was. And it's funny, his rival Prince, died in a similar way. These guys, they're hard on their bodies, whether it's through performance or plastic surgery, also a byproduct of being famous or having lots of money, and then get hooked on drugs in some way, shape, or form. And eventually the drugs get them. The drugs get you. Because that's the thing. If you have money, sure, you can stay off the street. Sure, you can kind of avoid bad situations. You can have bodyguards. You can have the drugs come to you. In the case of Michael Jackson, he had a fucking doctor on staff. He had an actual doctor to administer this stuff to him. It's not like he wasn't in a shooting gallery administering intravenous narcotics into his bloodstream. He had somebody to do it for him. When you have that kind of power, you can kind of avoid a lot of the common pitfalls that people face when they're in the depths of drug addiction and whatnot. Let's take a look at this article. This is from a website that I really, really like called All Things Interesting. Before we get there, though, let's just see what DLW is here. He says, it's one thing when famous folks die, but when trailblazers like Michael Jackson, the Ramones, Elvis go away, the void they leave is immense. I would agree. I would absolutely agree. Frizzy is here. How do you think up the greatest subjects? I found this article and I just thought it was interesting to finally talk about it. DLW says, I cried a little during This Is It. We're going to talk about This Is It. Incredible documentary. If you have not seen This Is It, it was made from rehearsal footage. We'll talk about that in a minute. What a great show that never fully was, but those rehearsals were intense. What was I saying? Turnstone. I remember the day after MJ died, the freeway in Los Angeles was backed up as my pals and I were en route to see my favorite band of the era, LaFace, at the Knitting Shitting Factory. What a time. Yeah, dude. It's crazy. It's just crazy, man. That when these things happen, it's true. The world stops spinning for a moment as everybody gasps in shock and awe of the immense void that is left by such giant talent leaving, and I'll tell you something. There was nobody, there was some people. people like Elvis and the Beatles and Michael Jackson. These guys, these were not just musicians; they were entertainers. Michael Jackson was an entertainer, dude. The guy could fucking dance and sing. He had so much energy. He put 150% into those live shows. When you look at a late 80s Michael Jackson show, look at Michael Jackson live in 1987. That's when he's at his peak of his Michael Jackson powers. Unstoppable. Unfucking stoppable. It's funny, in the early 90s, you can see him. He's starting to dial it in. By 93, Michael Jackson starts to get really tired. You can see his movements are not as they're not as follow through. Go watch Michael Jackson on the Bad Tour in 1987, and then go watch him on the History Tour in 1993, and tell me that you don't see what I'm talking about. The difference, the subtleties of dialing it in and whatnot. Okay, here's what we got here. How did Michael Jackson die? This is from All Things Interesting. Great website. They always have interesting topics. This was written by Kalina Fraga and edited by Jacelyn Angeles, and it was published on February 11th, 2024. During a sleepless night, Michael Jackson reportedly begged his personal doctor to give him why can't I pronounce anything correct, man? Propofol. I hope that propofol on June 25th, 2009. It was the last thing that he ever did. For a brief moment on June 21st, 2009, the entire world came to a standstill. Word had just broken out about the death of Michael Jackson, the king of pop, who had moonwalked his way into incomparable fame. That's the truth. And I'll tell you something. Think about the moonwalk. Think about how unbelievably revolutionary something like the moonwalk is, right? The idea, and I think the first time he ever performed the moonwalk was for a Motown 25th anniversary show program was it 1982? Maybe it was 79. Maybe it was 79. And nobody had ever seen anything like that before. It was something that he was like, it's like, Ben Stiller and Zoolander working on Blue Magnum. You know what I mean? Like it's something that he had been working on, and it was ready to show off. And people, like everybody was like, what the fuck? What is that? What a crazy thing. So in any case, obviously all of which, one of his big inspirations was James Brown, dude. James Brown walked so that Michael Jackson could run. And he did it right into incomparable fame. He was just 50 years old when I'm going to say passed away, because I think that's rude, perished. So how did Michael Jackson die? Michael Jackson's death on that summer day marked the end of his sometimes strange and often dazzling life. I wouldn't say sometimes strange. I would say just utterly bizarre, the mythology around Michael Jackson. My favorite story about Michael Jackson, this is a true as fuck story. You ready for this? This was dramatized at one point. This is hands down what I would, if I had $1 million of disposable money. Now, let's say I had $100 million. I would take 1%. I would pay 1% of my $100 million to be a fly on the wall for this story. But before we get there, I want to tell you about Riot stickers. We've got a new sticker deal at Riot Stickers. That's right, folks. We are starting a brand new promotion here at riotstickers.com, and it is for die cut stickers. What exactly is die cut? What does it mean? It's time for Sticker Science 101. Basically, you got your regular stickers, right? But we introduce a new element with the die cut sticker. Basically, what you do with a computer-guided scalpel. That's right, computer-guided scalpels. Isn't that a great band name, Computer Guided Scalpel? I love it. You can cut the exact shape of whatever your design is. So whatever you got going on, whatever its borders are, there's no borders, there's no limitations. You take your computer guided scalpel and you just cut around the edge and you get, voila, a die cut sticker. So in addition to the UV coating that protects from the sun, in addition to being printed on vinyl, which makes them weatherproof and waterproof, you can now have the exact shape that you want. Well, you always could, but you couldn't for a price like this. For $69, you can get 200 die cut stickers. There are some people out there who are die cut fanatics. They need die cut stickers in their lives. You are not going to find a better deal than this. Now, there's only one place you're going to find this incredible die cut sticker deal for $69. 200 stickers for $69. And that's if you go to the link down in the description. You go to riotstickers.com/Frumess. That's riotstickers.com/Frumess. What? Sharpie Riot, have you lost your mind? Have you lost your mind? These prices are insane. These prices are Crazy Eddie level prices. If you know Crazy Eddie, then you might be old. You might be older than me. You're probably way older than me. You click on the link, you do the thing, and you get your die cut stickers. Do not hesitate to get this deal, okay? And without further ado, Future Jeff, roll the 60-second Riot sticker commercial. Go, do it.
We make stickers, banners, and buttons too. Posters and promo cards. There's nothing we can't print for you. From stage backdrops to bass drum heads. We can print on shirts. We can print on hats. We can print on pants. Cheap prices and high quality. Quick turnaround times and free shipping. We also offer free artwork support. Great customer service and so much more. RiotStickers.com. Riot Stickers, we are the bomb. RiotStickers.com. Riot Stickers, we are the bomb. RiotStickers.com. Riot Stickers, we are the bomb. RiotStickers.com. Riot Stickers, we are the bomb.
Okay, so, what is that? Where's that coming from? We don't want that noise. Get out of here. Holy crap. That's annoying. All right. Okay, so the story. What is the story? On 9/11, Michael Jackson, Elizabeth Taylor, and Marlon Brando. Michael Jackson was supposed to be at the World Trade Center. They hopped in a limousine, just the three of them, and they drove from New York City to Ohio in a limousine to escape what was happening in New York City. Could you imagine being a fly on the wall? I would pay $1 million to be a fly on the wall in that limousine. Oh, can we stop for some hamburgers? You know, and then like Michael Jackson's like, he's just like, he's so ignorant. My God. Could you imagine? Could you fucking imagine? Could you imagine? Yeah, I don't know. That's a crazy story. Point being is that Michael Jackson had a crazy life, a really, really crazy life. Strange doesn't even begin to describe it. After rising to fame with his siblings in the family band, the Jackson 5, Jackson broke out on his own. His hit songs like Billie Jean, Thriller, and Beat It, as well as Jackson's iconic dance moves, made him an international phenomenon. It wasn't just that, though. You know, he also, like, he was doing things with film that had never been done before. You know, making the music videos for Bad and Thriller and Black and White and Remember the Time and Smooth Criminal. I mean, these were iconic cinematic masterpieces. He was taking the format to a whole other level, spending millions of dollars on music videos and turning what started off as like a promotional tool. Like I would say I think it would be fair to say some people would probably say November Rain, Guns N' Roses November Rain, because it cost like $8 million. But I would say that Michael Jackson's music videos were the pinnacle of the medium. Pinnacle of the medium. That, that's a kind of trailblazing that Michael Jackson was doing. However, by 2009, the year that Michael Jackson died, the pop star was preparing to go back on tour when the world learned of his death. Now, Michael Jackson started to have lots of money troubles in the 2000s. He bought Paul McCartney's songs right out from underneath him. He bought the Beatles catalog. I think he bought it. I think he owned ATV, and then ATV bought it, and then he sold some of it to Sony. He sold like a share of it to Sony, and Paul McCartney was just furious with Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson was like, "That's business." That's how Paul McCartney always describes it. But he started to have money problems. I think the concerts he was planning to do 50 final 50 concerts, and that was a means of of getting some money in the coffers. Rumors immediately swirled about the cause, though it took months to reveal that Jackson had died in his Los Angeles home after taking a fatal combination of drugs prescribed to him by his personal doctor. And of course, and I think they'll probably talk about it in here, his doctor was, his doctor went to jail. I mean, he was charged with murder. In the years since Michael Jackson's death, the world has struggled to define his legacy. He was one of the world's most successful and iconic entertainers. I mean, the guy, you look, Thriller, I believe both Thriller and Bad are two of the highest selling albums of all time. Thriller for certain. He was one of the world's most successful and iconic entertainers, but a damaging documentary in 2019 made the case yet again that he had done what he had done to young boys and got away with it. And I will say that I disagree with this article on that. I'm not saying that stuff didn't happen, but those two particular cases, there is just there's so much wrong with that documentary and with the cases and with the motives. And, just there was a lot of stuff that, that if you go, I'm going to sound like a loony with one of those. If you do your research, if you just go out there and do the research, I hate that shit, but it's really true. There's just a lot of, like, for instance, the fact that at the end of the documentary, it shows him burning all of the memorabilia that he got from Michael Jackson, when the reality was that dude Wade was really, hurting for dough. And he had sold all of his stuff. He had sold all that stuff through auction houses years prior. So what they did was, those were replicas, and that was filmed specifically for the documentary. To me, no documentary is going to be 100% truthful, but to me, that is so grossly disingenuous that you ruin the credibility of what you're trying to say. There are other things like the fact that one of the places where the incidents allegedly took place was a station house, and the years don't line up. The years, he was way older, and the train station was built, years after it could have possibly happened. I don't know. I'm not saying that it's not possible that these things didn't happen, but I just don't believe these two particular guys, especially when one of them was trying to, he was spurned by the family. He had been to I don't know. There was just a lot of contradictory sort of stuff. And probably one of the most damaging aspects was the fact that they were shooting interviews and they had him wear the same clothes 2 days in a row, or in two separate interview sessions, one of which where he's crying. And it's almost to show, like, as if it's trying to tell you that this all happened on the same day, when it didn't. It happened on different days, and they wore the same clothes. That's not, listen, that shouldn't take away from the testimony, but what it does do is it's manipulative. It's trying to, it's manipulating the viewer into feeling a certain way, that this is all happening at once, that this person is taking an appraisal of of trauma that they experienced, and it's led to them crying when in reality they're crying on a different, I don't know, there's just something so off to me about that. And not just me, a lot of people. And listen, I'm not a Michael Jackson fanboy here at all. As I said, I do believe Michael Jackson should have been charged and should have gone to jail for whatever he had done. I just don't think that they got him. They didn't get him on the right stuff. They just didn't. And yes, he did get away with it. The skyrocketing success of Michael Jackson, this is a bit more puff PC than I thought. I thought it was going to be a little bit more substantial. Michael Jackson was born on August 29th, 1958 in Gary, Indiana, to a large and musical family. When he was 5 years old, he joined 4 of his older siblings in their band, the Jackson 5, and eventually became the group's frontman. Because, as it turned out, in a family that full of talent, Michael was the most talented of them all. Under the unrelenting and frequently violent eye of their father, Joe Jackson, the boys in the Jackson 5 became a success in the early 1970s with hit songs like I Want You Back and I'll Be There. However, Michael Jackson also started to make a name for himself on his own. In 1972, he released his first solo album for Motown, Got to Be There, and showed off his acting chops in the cult classic film The Wiz. Then, in 1979, Jackson released his first solo album for Epic Records, Off the Wall, which became the best-selling album of the entire year. And that's the watershed moment when Off the Wall comes out and Billie Jean comes out, and that's when everything changes. Well, they're saying when everything really changed in the 80s, then Jackson released his album Thriller. I mean, Thriller is the pinnacle, right? I'd say from Thriller to Bad is really the pinnacle. But the difference from everything that had come before, a big dividing point is in fact, I think, Off the Wall. That's what you could separate. That's really when his solo career truly begins. Then Jackson released his album Thriller in 1982 and his now iconic Thriller music video the next year. The album became the biggest selling album in the world history, eventually selling 70 million copies, and the music video arguably heralded the MTV era. Jackson's incredible dance moves, including the moonwalk, also led Los Angeles Times critic Robert Hilburn to deem Jackson the king of pop. But really, when you look at the incredible choreography in Thriller, I mean, the moves that the thing about Michael Jackson is he wrote all his music. He wrote his music, and he choreographed his dances. He was a visionary from the top, who was able to artistically oversee all aspects of his operations. When he would record his vocals, he had like a hardwood floor put in because he wanted to make sure that the microphones captured all the little Foley moments, all the ruffling of clothes, and the foot stomps that he did on the wood and whatnot. All of it added, because when he would sing, he had to dance. So when he's in the booth singing and recording his vocals, he is, giving a performance. I mean, he's not just recording his vocals. He's not just doing a vocal performance. He's giving a full body performance in order to enhance his vocals. As Jackson became a bigger star, however, troubling rumors around him began to bubble to the surface. Some concerned his ever-changing appearance, especially his skin, which had started to lighten before the world's eyes. And that's probably the saddest thing of all about Michael Jackson. Truly, Michael Jackson suffered from an affliction that affects a lot of people of color. Both, black people and just, lots of people of color are affected by people who have a lot of melatonin in their skin are affected. And even people that don't are affected. And it's something called, vitiligo, I think is what it's called, vitiligo. And it's basically when it's kind of like how would I describe it? You lose pigment in your skin, but it's kind of it's blotchy. And you know what's interesting? Sometimes the way, it can be a very polarizing look for people. Sometimes people who deal with vitiligo are stunningly beautiful in their looks. Like it can be very um uh aesthetically to the eye, just really striking. And then there are other people who, have different different sort of patterns that form on their skin, and it's not it can look jarring. And it's something, it's not easy to deal with. I can't even begin to imagine. What do I know? I don't have it. Um, but it's something that can't be helped. It's something that is genetic. It's just an affliction that people deal with. And Michael Jackson was one of them. And the reason why I say this is like so tragic and such like a, one of the things that's just really really sad, upsetting, is that, when you are that famous, when you are that like big, people, everybody's looking at you and taking photographs of you, and imagine the fear. Imagine the fear. Imagine all of the love and admiration you're getting from the public, and then imagine how terrifying it might be if what if they find out that I have this condition, and are they going to judge me for it? Are they going to make fun of me for it? Or what if the press finds out? And so what did Michael Jackson do? He chose to cover it up. And the best way they could do that was with makeup. And eventually I think he got various different cosmetic surgeries. He clearly had something going on, some sort of issue with his body image. And he spent his money trying to change the way that he looked. And he had to do it in the public eye, and it could not have been easy, man. It could not have been easy. And that also is a part of just sort of, I don't know, trying to better understand someone who is so complicated and fucked up and crazy. So in any case, his skin had started to lighten, and some things were far more serious. In 1990s, Michael Jackson started facing allegations regarding young children. The downward spiral of the King of Pop. By the 19, I gotta be honest with you, I thought this was going to be specifically about his death, and it's not. I typically skim over articles, but I don't like to read them because I don't want to retread. I want my reactions to genuinely be surprised. I want to be surprised when I'm reading it. I want you to experience it with me in real time. So I try to just make sure something is what it is before I start. And this totally had me fooled. And I'm kind of annoyed, to be honest with you. The downward spiral of the King of Pop. By the 1990s, Michael Jackson's appearance had dramatically changed from his early days of fame. His brown skin had become noticeably whiter, almost translucent. Jackson addressed the rumors about his skin in a 1993 interview with Oprah Winfrey, telling her that he had a skin disorder called vitiligo. So that's what it was. And this is a very iconic interview with Oprah Winfrey. I think we've all seen it. Excuse me, seltzer. It's a great interview. You should totally check it out. He says, "It is something I cannot help," Jackson said during the interview, claiming that he only used makeup to fix up blotchiness caused by vitiligo and never bleached his skin. When people make up stories like that, I don't want to be who I am, and it hurts me. It's a problem for me, and I can't control it. But what about all the millions of people who sit in the sun to become darker, to become other than what they are? Nobody says nothing about that. It's so true, though. Like, that is so fucking true. And it's like, he got criticized for that. And the reality is, like, look at all the people that fucking want darker fucking skin, but that same year, Jackson faced far more damaging allegations than skin bleaching when it emerged that the LAPD was investigating accusations regarding what we discussed above. Jackson was known to spend much of his free time with young children, which sometimes included sleepovers. The allegations led to some to believe that there was something far more nefarious to these get-togethers. When the boy's family filed a civil suit against him, Jackson settled out of court allegedly for over $20 million. And that goes back to what I was talking about. You crunch numbers and $20 million is less than $100 million, and $20 million, and this all goes away. Boom, voila, vanished. And it was a civil case. He was not being prosecuted by the government. Big difference there. The charges were destructive to both Jackson's image and Jackson himself, and Rolling Stone reports that the pop star's fatal reliance on medication began around this time. So that's when Jackson started to really get loaded. And mind you, that's when he married Lisa Marie Presley, in an effort to try and rehab his image, the king of pop, marrying the king of rock and roll's daughter. Jackson turned to drugs as a means of escape and to cope with the pain from past surgeries and injuries, including severe burns that he had suffered in 1984 while filming a commercial for Pepsi. He did a Pepsi campaign, unlike any Pepsi campaign or any sort of product campaign that had been done before. And a pyro thing went haywire, and Jackson got burned pretty badly. And so, that's what became of that, As time went on, Jackson appeared in the news more often for his scandals than his music. He married Lisa Marie Presley, as we just said, the daughter of Elvis, in 1994, only to divorce her 18 months later. And many people thought that was kind of like a beard situation of some kind. And it was the same thing with Debbie Rowe. In 1996, he married a nurse from his dermatologist's office named Debbie Rowe, with whom he had 2 children conceived by artificial insemination, and divorced her in 1999. Now, here's the thing. It's claimed, nobody actually knows, was it artificial insemination or was it actually Michael Jackson himself? And why would he use artificial insemination? And there was a vicious rumor, and I will say, take this with the utmost grain of salt. It is speculated. It is speculated, allegedly is speculated that Michael Jackson was chemically castrated by his fucking father when he was a boy, in order to make sure that his voice didn't get deeper or more deeper, because, Michael Jackson also spoke with 2 different voices. There was the Michael Jackson public voice that, everybody knows, the hey, you're so ignorant, hey, and then there was the deeper voice of Michael Jackson, and you can hear it. Go on YouTube and search Michael Jackson's real voice. Michael Jackson had a deeper voice. And again, this is probably not true. I don't think it's true. I mean, this would be so insane if it wasn't true. Joe Jackson supposedly, allegedly, that he was castrated, chemically castrated in a way that would prevent him from who knows, that's such a, I feel bad that I even said that just now, because it's so unsubstantiated. In his first interview since being released from prison, Dr. Conrad Murray has said that he and Michael Jackson were so close that he held his penis every night. What? Autopsies show that MJ was uncertain. What? I don't know what that has to do with anything. Hey, Mom Longoria, how are you? We're talking about Michael Jackson's uncircumcised penis, in case you missed it. Moving on. So he had those kids, either which way, they are Michael Jackson's kids. It doesn't matter who cares, man, whether he is the bio dad or not. So more allegations emerged again. In 2003, Jackson was arrested on charges. And in 2005, his case went to trial. Though Jackson was eventually acquitted of the charges, the damage to his reputation was severe. Yes, it was. After 2005, the singer largely retreated from the public eye. Still, troubling stories about Jackson continue to emerge, like that he owed a Beverly Hills pharmacy more than $100,000 in prescription drug debts. Again, like, when you have money, when you are able, right? The more you know, exactly. When you have money, when you are able to do things that normal people can't do, you can rack up $100,000 in prescription drug debts. Jackson more or less avoided the spotlight until 2009 when he announced a series of 50 concerts that he'd perform in London later that year. He described the tour as the final curtain call, but his actual curtain call would come before the tour began when Michael Jackson died. How did Michael Jackson die? His final hours. As Michael Jackson prepared for his tour, some close to him started to notice disturbing changes. His makeup artist, Karen Fay, later recalled that Jackson was not the man I knew and that he was acting like a person I didn't recognize. Show director Kenny Ortega, the guy who did the high school, the musical stuff, who, like Fay, was very familiar with Jackson's usual work habits, similarly testified that the singer seemed lost, cold, and afraid, and exhibited paranoid and anxious behavior. Those such concerns were brought to Jackson's personal doctor, Conrad Murray. Murray alleged, I'm sorry, I was just thinking about the comment before and like how, look at it, look at the fucking guy's face, man. Murray allegedly insisted that Jackson was physically and emotionally capable of handling all of his responsibilities as a performer. And he was charged with manslaughter. Yeah, that is true. Mere moments later, wait, we missed something. Well, hold on a second. On June 24th, 2009, sorry, I lost my place. So on June 24th, 2009, Michael Jackson attended rehearsal as normal. The tour was set to begin the next month at London's O2 Arena, and Jackson rehearsed until about midnight. After that was done, he hugged his dancers, thanked his crew, and returned to his Los Angeles home. There, Jackson, who had long suffered from insomnia and was having an especially difficult time sleeping in recent months, told Murray that he needed rest. In the early hours of June 25th, 2009, Murray gave Jackson a series of drugs that were meant to help him sleep, including the anti-anxiety medication lorazepam, the sedative midazolam, and Valium. I mean, this guy is a licensed doctor, I say that quote unquote, who has access to these really heavy things, and he's administering them because Michael Jackson is Michael Jackson, has money. It's like there's no regulation of like, dude, you shouldn't be taking these things. It's like Michael Jackson wants these things. Michael Jackson's going to get these things. Murray later told investigators that he initially resisted Jackson's request for I can't say that fucking word. Propofol, a powerful anesthetic that Murray had given the singer before, even though it's not meant to be used outside of a hospital or clinic settings. As the morning hours stretched on, however, Murray relented. What does that mean? Murray relented as the morning hours stretched on. He's like, come on, just do it. I'm making a joke. I mean, this is a guy who fucking died. I mean, I feel no, sorry. Inappropriate. My bad. That was stupid. No, I've never tried this drug. But I imagine that it's really heavy shit. It's just the reason why I was doing that impression before is that he says, as the morning hours stretched on, Murray relented. Like, what was he just like fucking complaining to him until he relented? Mere moments later, Murray realized that Jackson was not breathing. He said he made multiple attempts to resuscitate him, as did first responders who arrived at the home, but it was too late. Michael Jackson died after suffering cardiac arrest brought on by acute intoxication from propofol. The world awoke to shocking news that the King of Pop had perished. As the Los Angeles Times grimly put it, Jackson had spent much of his life as one of the most famous people on the planet, and to many, his untimely death felt both unthinkable and oddly inevitable. Well, the aftermath of Michael Jackson's death. 8 months after Michael Jackson's death, investigators charged Conrad Murray with involuntary manslaughter. In the very least, he probably should have been charged with manslaughter. In 2011, Murray was found guilty and sent to prison, where he served 2 years of a 4-year jail sentence. Since then, Michael Jackson has held an uncomfortable place in American culture. He was the king of pop, an iconic singer who revolutionized dance moves and music videos, but accusations against the singer have only grown louder since Michael Jackson's death. Between 2013 and 2014, two men, these are the guys who I have a problem with. I don't have a problem with the accusations. I have a problem with these two guys, and I feel like they were trying to cash in. I really do. I'm sorry to say. Between 2013 and 2014, two men named Wade Robson and James Safechuck sued the Jackson estate and Jackson's companies on the grounds that the singer had, done stuff to them as boys. Though a judge initially rejected their suits, the HBO documentary Leaving Neverland brought their story to a wider audience. Both men, just go Google Leaving Neverland discrepancies. Just Google that. Do humor me. Because again, I don't want to sound like, look, I don't want to take away from, the victims here. And, maybe these guys were victimized in some way, shape, or form, but there are so many weird motives behind the documentary and just the deception, the sleight of hand that the documentary takes advantage of viewers' heartstrings. Something doesn't sit right with me. Both men offered detailed descriptions of the alleged allegations they suffered at Jackson's hands, which they claim took place at a variety of locations, including Jackson's Neverland Ranch, at places that weren't even built yet when they claimed that they had happened. All of this makes Michael Jackson difficult to judge. A once-in-a-lifetime artist, Jackson will always be remembered for songs like Billie Jean and Thriller, for his famous music videos, and for his even more iconic dance moves. But the disturbing allegations against Jackson, though he has never been found guilty, also cast a dark shadow on his legacy. There are some people that will say that it's because Jackson was a black man. For the black community, losing Jackson was fucking huge. I mean, he's ginormous fucking star, ginormous, larger than life presence in the black community. Like, same thing with Prince, man. So yeah, there's a lot. Now, to go back to This Is It, and this is kind of a remarkable thing. So after Jackson passes away, they've been shooting all this. Kenny Ortega has been shooting all of this rehearsal footage. It's never meant to be seen by the public. They're shooting the footage because they need it as a reference for the choreography, the things that they're doing. And it's amazing footage when you look at these moments, because it was never meant to be seen by people. Again, think about what I just said about Leaving Neverland and think about what I'm about to say. Because it was never meant to be seen by people, there's a lot of sort of very candid, like fly on the wall, sort of casual, genuine moments. One in particular that blows my mind is that when Jackson never played instruments. He didn't play any instruments. The way that he would write his music was with his mouth, beatboxing. He would beatbox the rhythms and the melodies, and that's how he would write. And he had such a command over his songcraft and knew his songs so intimately. And there are some great demos. Go look for the demos of Michael Jackson doing Beat It, completely a cappella, as like a studio demo so that they know how to build the song. That came from Jackson, man. And there's a scene in This Is It where he's talking to the bass player or somebody, and he's like, hey, that thing you're doing, that do, 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 do. He's like doing the bass line, the do, 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 like whatever it is. He's like, it's got to be more like do, 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 do. Like he had such a particular understanding of how things needed to go. Joe Jackson claims that because Michael was in such poor health at that time, and a lot of people claim that because he was in such poor health at the time, that footage actually features a body double. That's not Michael Jackson dancing at it. It's a body double. I don't know. I don't think I believe that. I think that because the reality is This footage was never meant to be seen by the public. After Jackson died and they knew they weren't going to do these concerts, the footage was put together as a documentary as a way of sort of really creating some kind of catharsis for Michael Jackson, for the end of the unexpected end of Michael Jackson. It's kind of amazing. And apparently it's one of the highest grossing documentaries of all time. And it's kind of amazing when you think that they were able to synthesize something like that out of such a tragedy. And there were accusations by Sony and ATV and some others that like they were trying to exploit and capitalize on Michael Jackson's death. And, you know, I'm sure that, listen, a lot of money was burned. A lot of people didn't get paid. A lot of stuff went down the shitter when Michael Jackson passed away with those shows. And this was a way not only to send as a send off for Michael Jackson's loyal fans. The dude is the most loyal fans ever, but it also was a way of sort of, putting a period on his career. And it's just an incredible documentary. I highly recommend you check it out. Sad stuff, man. This is sad stuff. Again, looking at Michael Jackson like this was not meant to be rubbernecking or, looking at it in a disrespectful way, even though maybe I was a little disrespectful on the stream. I'm kind of a little disappointed with how I chose to, certain things. I mean, this is a dead man. Like you no matter what, you just, I don't know. Don't tap dance on people's graves. It's just not nice. Everybody should be treated with respect. That's all I got. That's what I got for tonight's show. What do you think about all this? What do you think about Michael Jackson? What do you think about his legacy? What do you think about the allegations? Do you think that Michael Jackson that there was a body double for Michael Jackson? This is it. I don't think Michael Jackson allowed it. There were several people that tried to bar the movie from coming out, including his nephews and his older sister, LaToya. And they were all like, look, he wouldn't want this stuff to be seen. It was meant for his private video library. That's where it was going to go. It was not meant to be seen by people. And, the idea that Michael Jackson was a perfectionist and that he wouldn't want anybody to see the stuff. And to the flip side, I say to that is he was also a public figure who had millions of fans that adored him. And he left irresponsibly and unexpectedly. And therefore he has an obligation, I would say, to he has an obligation to his public to not, give them something. And they did it in the form of this incredible documentary. Like I said, 5 out of 5 stars. Can't recommend it enough. Check it out. Yeah, Frizzy, totally ultra fucking talented. He was. That's all I got for you tonight. Thank you for joining me on this strange journey into the world of a boy who never grew up and died way too young, but left an incredible amount of work behind. I'll say Shimon and hair grease, and all that. The drug in, it's so fucked up. I didn't even think about this. So I made a movie called Gouge Away, feature-length film, which if you're a Patreon, you could watch the old cut right now. It's being prepared for Blu-ray release. And you know what I just realized just now in this moment, I named, there's laughing gas that's used in the movie. It's a street narcotic. And kind of like a Frank Booth thing, you put on a mask and you breathe into it. And I named it Eehee, like Michael Jackson, like Eehee. And I did that because the gas makes you go Eehee after you breathe it in. And I didn't even think about the fact that Michael Jackson had, that was dark. What a dark layer to all of this. Okay, enough. Goodbye. I'm out.